Hey, we're live. Dan, can you hear me? Can you hear me, Dan? You can talk. I can hear you. I don't think Dan can hear me.
Galaxy S8 Plus.
So we're having a bit of technical difficulties today. So normally we launch and we have some beautiful music, and I definitely want Dan to hear it because I changed it up a little bit. But for whatever reason, Dan can't hear me at all today. But we can hear everything going on around Dan. Can you hear me yet? No, we can't.
Can you hear me though?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. This is gonna be a good show. I'm gonna try to read your lips for an hour.
Can everyone else hear me? I know Clubhouse can hear me. We're also broadcasting live on Clubhouse right now. If someone, Matt Lamarche, he is in YouTube. He says, let there be no question first. Aren't you proud? He's first. So thanks for joining us, Matt. Mike V, he says, busy day, huh? Because we were a little bit late getting the start today. We cannot figure out the microphone dilemma for it's actually not the microphone dilemma. It's the ears dilemma. It's the speaker dilemma for Dan. So he's going to be listening, I think, on Clubhouse. So at least he can hear what's happening. It'll be a slight delay, and he'll have to keep it on mute and then unmute. Oh, you are good? So you can hear me now?
Yeah.
All right. So he can hear us for the most part. Julie Moon says she can hear me. Okay, thanks, Julie. Okay, so now
wait, she said I can't hear you.
She can.
Okay, good. I'm all cheese.
Okay, so now I will play the intro as originally intended. We're live. Have the last 2 years of the real estate market been like one long night out with the old friend from college? It was fun while it lasted, but now we're paying for it. And who has the worst hangover? Buyers, builders, or agents? And it's harder for people to buy in when the blind goes over 7%. So consumers are going all in on riskier loans, while others gamble on prices to drop next year. Home builders are folding as they slash housing starts, while the brave ones bet on the river as materials and labor stabilize. And Rex and NAR are fighting in the parking lot, and the bouncers giving Rex a hand. All that and more on This Week in Real Estate. Yay!
So jammy.
This Week in Real Estate. You like that one? So a little bit different. We were talking about, if you haven't seen it, you know what, Matt Lamarche, you're a mod. Can you drop the link in for the YouTube link into the Clubhouse so people can see the thumbnail? So the thumbnail is from the movie Hangover. It's one of the final, I think it's one of the pictures at the very end of the movie. If y'all seen the movie, they have pictures that go up like of their night out that they don't remember. And Zach Galifianakis is throwing dice, throwing craps, and then everyone around him is celebrating. And me and Dan are around Zach celebrating because we're talking about people making a big gamble today on the show.
And having a pretty big hangover because of all the awesomeness that we went through for 2 years.
Yeah. And I think the question is, who has the worst hangover? Is it agents? Is it buyers? Is it builders? Sellers even?
I would say, if I were to bet, I would say buyers.
Buyers.
Because sellers, dude, they won. They bet the house and they won for over 2 years, right? And they're still technically winning. It's just the odds are a little more against them, but they're still in their favor. Builders never really caught up when they should have. And we're going to hit an article in a second, or when we get into the stories, that, builders never really caught up, and buyers, they had it pretty good until about 2019, and then 2020 hit. I think they have the biggest hangover right now.
Yeah. I would agree with that. I would agree with that assessment. I think there's a lot of agents that right now are still trying to figure out the market by evidence of negotiation like that.
And if you guys don't follow me on Instagram, right there, D-Ludwig DLUDWIGROCKS, go check out my new reel.
There you go. I have to also mention, so we're broadcasting right now in 4 locations. We're on LinkedIn. So thank you guys for joining us from LinkedIn. Do we have any LinkedIn comment? No LinkedIn comments yet. If you're on LinkedIn, comment below. Let us know, even if you're watching the replay.
Matt will be a cliff if he can.
Yeah, we're broadcasting in Facebook. We're broadcasting on YouTube. And if you comment on LinkedIn, Facebook, or YouTube, we can display your comment, then we can talk about you. or your comment. Like Scap the Appraiser says, well done, Matt. Must be a slow day. Okay. And then we can also, if you want to join Clubhouse, you can raise your hand if you want to comment on any of the articles or things that we talk about on today's show, and then we can bring you up for discussion. So we broadcast this show live because we believe it creates a much better discourse live than if we were to pre-record it, though pre-recording would have been a lot easier today because literally we scheduled it and everything at 12 o'clock. Everything was fine. As Dan joins the green room, I guess you could say, he couldn't hear me, right? Which is why some of you heard that at the very beginning of the show. We'll probably edit that out for later. But then as I was looking like, okay, we got to figure this out. Dan's like, I'm going to restart my computer. I'm like, ooh, don't do the whole computer restart. And then my internet totally
So I
goes
waited
out.
and then I came back in and our screen was just totally black. I couldn't see Ray. And then he texted me, my internet went out. So I'm like, ooh, restart. So then I did the restart.
So right now we're broadcast. I would love to know what this quality, if it's pretty good quality, because I feel like we're going to be super pixelated on YouTube because this is being broadcast through my phone cell signal.
Which is so hotspotted.
I hotspotted my MacBook and this whole setup and everything that we have here is hotspotted through my phone, and my phone is also on Clubhouse, and it is already getting warm.
Uh-oh.
So I'm not sure how long the show is going to last today. So if I drop at any moment, I'm going to go back and try to like rejoin on Wi-Fi. If that doesn't work, then I'll also rejoin on my cell signal. So we should probably get to the show. Before we get into these headlines, Sam, would you tell people what this show is actually? Oh, wait, look. What? Facebook user says no pixelation, but the new iPhone is legit. Thank you very much. It's purple. Ooh. Is this an ad for Ray's new iPhone, says Julie May? No, it's not. It should be.
Every single week. Every single week.
Adderidge says, cue up the dial-up sound. That's funny. I should have had that ready. But all right. So Dan, before we get into this, tell people what the show is actually all about.
I'd love to. When Ray and I met here, trolling realtors on a really fun page, they kind of went awry after we kind of left. We saw the ship sinking and we kind of jumped ship before it sank. But it was a fun group for a while. We would always end up kind of in the same text threads, just the same reply threads, kind of, vibing on how we troll. So we built that from there. At the time, I had an idea for a real estate show because I am, in fact, a bearded man in real estate. And when I met Ray, I noticed something very interesting about him.
What was that, Daniel?
He's never actually played the Oregon Trail, even though he is the Oregon Trail generation.
I have played it.
Oh,
yeah. So I'm the oldest possible millennial, born in 1982, youngest. Or the youngest. No, I think it's the oldest. 82 is the oldest possible millennial, I think. And
you might be the youngest. Aren't you still at the very end of my generation, or no?
Maybe
Gen X.
They call there's this gap that we're in called the Oregon Trail generation. It's like 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, there's no name for him.
Yeah, and it's the kids that grew up outside until we hit about 14, and then we all went in and played on computers.
And if you don't know, Oregon Trail was a game back then, and it was
right. You
had to have it on your big old clunky desktop, and it was literally just turn by turn. It was really clunky, but it was a game. It was awesome.
So I'm excited about seeing exactly how, speaking of throwback, exactly how a cell phone will do now, considering that I had to build my first computer.
Right.
Like I'm such a nerd. I geek out on technology. So this is like, the scene in Seinfeld where Kramer is trying to run a car out of gas.
Yeah.
That's the level of nerd excitement I have about this show to see if we're going to run out.
Kind of why it's a little trivia about Ray, but it's kind of why I went with it, because you go back to Oregon Trail, or my first video game ever, Pong. I'm that old. But now you have a cell phone running an entire show with a lot of data going through it. So
yeah,
let's get through this. So anyway, I obviously noticed he's a beautifully bearded man, but I also noticed that he loves giving value upfront to not only his clients, but also just to humans in general. So the show's about being more as an agent, but also more as a human.
Yep. And one of the ways we believe that you could be more is to know what in the world is going on, which is why we do this show. We want to have 1 hour-ish where people can get together, figure out exactly what's going on, know what's happening in the economy, know how you can better serve your clients. So Dan, are you ready to get into it?
Absolutely. Let's go.
Let's go. Yeah.
It's refreshing. I don't know if you guys
Um,
noticed, by the way, I got myself a new fuzzy chair. Look at
I
that
didn't.
thing. Look, dude, it's huge, by the way. Like, I'm sitting up kind of high. It's big. So it's fully, look, I can totally just like chill in it. Yeah. Super big, plush, shaggy, comfy chair.
Looks like a tauntaun.
It is. I killed a tauntaun. If you guys don't know what that is, it's from Star Wars. It was really cold one day, so I had to get inside the tauntaun. So I did that. And then I was like, well, I might as well use the pelt for something. So boom.
Speaking of taking refuge in a warm body, let's talk about homebuyers. I don't know if that was an effective transition or not, but hey,
it works. It works.
7%. We are finally over 7%. We've made it, everyone.
This is the number I've been saying my entire career. Even if we get to 7%, we're still really good historically. Now I get to go, I told you.
Yeah.
11 years later. I've been saying this for 11 years.
So mortgage rates, this article is everywhere, but the one that we're referencing is on CNBC. And by the way, all the articles and everything is linked down below in the description. And you can also fast forward and rewind and go to the exact part of the topic you want to see. So we do have those about 2 hours after the live show. That's all in the description. So thanks for watching Replay Crew.
Yeah.
Be sure to comment.
Julie, you're right. If there's going to be a couple of us, if you add together my prediction and someone that was in the low to mid threes, we'll be at 7, but it's going to take some addition.
Yeah, that'll work. All right. So buyers, they're taking a drink right now. The average rate on a popular 30-year fixed mortgage climbed over 7%.
Fresh sound effect.
That was a pretty good sound effect, wasn't it?
Give it away.
Meanwhile, mortgage credit availability is now the lowest level since March 2013. So this is interesting. Rates go up, but mortgage availability is actually low. It fell for the 7th consecutive month. While lenders may be desperate for business, mortgage demand drops are due to higher rates. They're also more concerned about the weaker economy, which could lead to higher delinquencies, even though right now delinquencies are at their lowest level, even pre-pandy levels. So Joel Kahn says there's a smaller appetite for lower credit score and high loan-to-value loan programs. He's a Mortgage Bankers Association economist. Mortgage delinquencies at the moment are still at near record lows, while foreclosure rose 15% from July to August, which we all anticipated and expected and thought actually it would be even higher. They're still 44% below pre-pandy levels. So we just now, like there's 2 or 3 foreclosures kind of in my area for the first time in a long time. The Fed determined to hike rates as it can to keep them there as long as it can, even if it means the economy suffers. That was a comment by the Fed last week, I believe it was. Matthew Graham said from Mortgage News Daily. So the Fed, let's see, Graham noted the Fed is not considering mortgage rates for the housing market because home prices are overheated and correction is, quote, good and necessary, said the Fed.
Correction. So by that, they have to, it's defined as 10%. So.
Yeah. Well, and right now, let's say where's the mortgage applications? Is that on?
And remember last week, just as a fun side note, remember last week, what Ray recommended is go through your database for investors or just regular buyers or whatever, but then go through your MLS and see if you have any foreclosures. Because right now I'm willing to bet that buyers are like, what is a foreclosure? If they haven't been in the market or haven't been around here, what is a foreclosure? So put that info out there and say, hey, maybe this is our deal. Maybe no one else is looking at it because they're afraid of it. You know, the bank owns that. I can't buy that. Maybe they don't know anything about it. Get that info out there.
We have buyers right now. I would describe most buyers that we come across these days as timid. They're like sticking a toe in the water. They're not too sure. They're just. Meanwhile, the investors are very aggressive right now. very aggressive. And over the last week, we've put 10 homes under contract. 9 of them were for investors.
Wow.
Yeah. So investors are very active right now.
That's intense.
And we've also, here's an example. One guy sold a home in Silicon Valley, and then pretty much gave us his money and said, hey, invest it here. We helped him acquire, I think we're up to 5 properties now.
Nice.
And increased his return 325%.
That's awesome.
So yeah, it's cool. But and the homes that he bought were homes that buyers had passed up on. There were homes that were on the market, 20, 30 days, 40 days. And so the buyers that were in the market hopefully had seen those. Surely they'd seen those, but yet they passed up on them. So
for whatever reason, right?
For whatever reason. Yeah. So I don't know. They seem like they're backing up a little bit.
Yeah.
Julie Moon says she's working with investors too in Hotlanta area. Matt Lamar said maybe buyers should listen to those who are tried and true investors. Yeah.
Not speculators.
Not speculators.
They actually have
Jesse
skin
Martin
in the game.
Hey, we got our another Facebook comment. Thanks, Jesse. Thanks for joining us from Facebook. All right. Well, so what happens when mortgage availability? So mortgage availability is a stat that says kind of banks' propensity to loan, right? Their propensity to give out a loan. They're pulling back. Banks are pulling back a little bit. They don't want to loan as much money.
Which that's what I wanted to ask. So do you think, and I don't mean to cut you off, but do you think that this means they're going to start loosening things a little bit? And I kind of know where you're going, but do you think this is they're going to start loosening standards a little bit?
So here's what happens. Whenever the Fed funds rate gets so high, that is the rate at which banks can loan each other money overnight. And we've been saying this forever. Whenever that rate goes up, it puts less money into the economy. There's less propensity to give a small business a loan. There's less propensity to give somebody else that's maybe high risk a loan, because they basically have a no risk payout if they loan to another bank and get an overnight rate. So we knew that was going to happen. So everyone that's reporting on this is like, banks are pulling, they don't want to loan people money. It's like, well, no, not when the Fed funds rate is so high. They can get a better return elsewhere, and their shareholders would chastise them for not taking advantage of that.
Right.
So now you have the tightening of money. You have buyers that are already pulling back on the market. Mortgage applications are going down. Those who do want to buy now have to pay a confiscatory rate. So what are buyers going to do? Probably turn to riskier mortgage options. And no surprise, that's exactly what we're seeing. Another article from CNBC, demand for riskier home loans is high as interest rates soar. So mortgage demand dropped again last week as rates climbed higher, but one type of loan is attracting borrowers. The adjustable rate mortgage, or ARM, which offer lower rates. It's seeing a renewed demand after getting very little interest over the last decade. That's because you get like a super cheap rate. Total mortgage applications dropped 2% last week compared with the previous week, according to Mortgage Bankers Association seasonally adjusted index. The average contract rate for conforming loan balances, $647,200 or less, increased 6.81% from 6.75%. The news that job growth and wage growth continued in September is positive for the housing market, as higher incomes support housing demand. However, it also pushed off the possibility of any near-term pivot for the Federal Reserve on its plans for additional rate hikes, said Michael Frantantoni, MBA's chief economy. Let's see. Was that the total? Our mortgage applications to purchase a home, they fell 2% for the week, and we're 39% lower than a year ago.
There you go. We always want to know that number, which that's not expected, but week to week, that's not a big deal. And it's
that's pretty anticipated. I mean, last year was record low rates. People are going to be, in the market shopping and buying, and so
even
it's
if
lower
they didn't
now.
necessarily want to, maybe they were on the fence and they're like, dude, it's 3%, like 3.5%. I have to
buy a house, just buy something,
buy a house, even though it's tough and it might take me a few months. I'm going to do this.
Yeah. So I guess my question is, how do you think that the ARM is this? And I want to get everyone's comments on this. Facebook user said FB user test.
I don't know if that's talking to you or to me.
It says, sup new IG friend. What's up? Thanks for joining the show.
Yeah. Hi.
Dusty Martin said that's not what they did before the crash. Lower income people couldn't qualify for a loan because in order to be Fed insured backed, you had to have low risk. So they told banks to lend to high risk peeps. Banks said, okay, make it legal and cover our booty. So the feds did. And now we all know what happened next with the income loans and predatory loans. So let's talk about that. Is the increase in ARMs, adjustable rate mortgages, the people are using that right now, is that going to lead to a crash now, or is it going to lead to a crash in 5 to 10 years when the adjustable rate mortgages adjust?
Right, because that's really what happened when everything adjusted. They started loaning those things out in what, 2001-ish, 2002 and 3, and then 5 years later, all of a sudden, bam! No one could have, because it adjusted. I mean, payments doubled. They went from $2,000 a month to $4,000 a month, and people are like, I couldn't afford the $2,000 a month.
You remember when people were talking about the 3-year balloon? Like, hey, I'm going to buy this $700,000-$800,000 house. I'm going to get it on a 3-year balloon, and we'll just pay it off in 3 years, or we'll refi.
Right.
And suddenly they couldn't refi.
They couldn't.
So is this the sign of the end times for the mortgage industry?
Yes.
Clubhouse peeps, y'all chime in.
Crash. I'm going to die. So my question is, if I'm a lender, right? If I'm a direct lender, it's my money, and as long as I follow the federal regulations and guidelines, can I loosen up my standards? Right. It's up to me. If I'm going to hold on to that loan, I'm not going to sell it and have someone else take care of it. If I'm going to hold on to that loan and service it myself, can't I loosen up my standards? If I feel like they're all right, I think they're a pretty good risk, they're going to pay it back, even though, I don't think it's going to happen again. I don't see things loosening up quite like they did 20 years ago. I don't see that happening, but it's also, I mean, where were interest rates 20 years ago when they were doing this? Were they this high, or were they lower and then went higher? And then,
that's a good question. I think
About the same.
Yeah. Did you say they were about the same?
Yeah, I think 2001, 2, they were in the sevens. So.
There you go.
So there you go. But also, values were not this high.
I didn't recognize Matt's picture because he took the Zach Galifianakis. Y'all can't see that probably because it's blurred, but he took the Zach Galifianakis headshot. I was like, who's that talking? Oh, amen. Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, we know what Dusty said is true. It was the subprime market that really caused the housing-led recession. But could the reliance on an adjustable rate mortgage cause a recession in the future? Biden was on a recent interview said that he didn't think there was going to be a recession, but he couldn't promise there wasn't one on the horizon. That feels good.
That's good.
All right.
There's some
no more
Clubhouse
so
comments.
no one's worried about it. Oh, do we have Clubhouse comments? All right, let's go to the Clubhouse comments.
First of all, Julie Mozina says she was in high school in 82, which,
what's up, Julie?
Yeah, she said Dan had Atari. Oh yeah, I had an Atari. I had also a Commodore VIC 20. I had all of it. Let's get up to Space Invaders. They're good. There we go. Can I do a seller finance deal to get in a home that I want? That's a good question. We can cover that later. Let's see. There you go. Julie Mozina. FHA will become very popular. And then says, no, it's not the end. And then we will have 7-1, 5-1, and 10-1 arms, she says.
Okay.
And then Jerry Parsons, he likes to say, don't blame the 2007 crash on poor people.
I don't think anyone's blaming it on poor people. We're blaming it on subprime mortgages to risky people.
Yeah.
You can be risky and not poor.
Yeah. You can make $8 million a year, but spend $9 million a year and be pretty risky.
Yeah. Let's not say only poor people are risky. Okay, Jerry?
Fair comment.
But you did have people that couldn't get a mortgage for one way or another who took advantage of the subprime market. And now you have people that are choosing to get an ARM because they believe that rates are going to go lower in the future and they can just refi out of it. But Dusty Martin said, I wouldn't blame poor people. I would blame politicians who use poor people as pawns. It was definitely a big political move, if you guys remember in the past. But one of the things that buyers are looking at is that they think rates are going to go down. Obviously, that's why the popularity of an ARM exists, because what the consumer thinks is going to happen is that the rates are going to go down and they can just refi out of the ARM. However, the other thing that they think is going to happen is that actual home prices will go down.
Okay, so before you get into it, let's have that conversation real quick. So let's say I'm a betting man, because that's the theme for today, right?
Yep. Hey, wait, hang on. As we talk about this, Dan, a lot of people don't know it, but you're actually sitting in a casino right now.
Yeah.
So I know the audio listeners can't hear this, but that's one of the reasons why we did this theme, is because Dan is in a casino. So Dan, if you could, why don't you go ahead and drop something in the slots, and let's see if you can at least win something.
Okay, real quick. Hold on.
Yep. That's pretty good.
Dude, sweet.
Not bad. Not bad.
Dude, I got my $5 back. I'm cool.
Let's do it again. Let's do it again. Let's see what happens. Whoa.
Dude, yes.
Dan hit the big money. No. So Dan, go ahead. Since you're a betting man, since you want to go over right now over to the would you do blackjack, or would you do Texas Hold'em? Pick your poison?
Texas
Craps?
Hold'em. So
roulette.
Well, here's my question. If I'm a betting man, all right, I'm sitting at a slot right now, and I'm gonna bet that interest rates are gonna go down. So I'm gonna lock in right now as low as I can, but I'm gonna bet they're gonna go lower in 5, 7, 10 years, whatever I do my arm at, and then I can refi out of it at that point. Okay, that's what I'm gonna bet on. But I'm also if this were me personally, I would say home prices are gonna keep. Even if they go up slowly, they're going to keep increasing. So why not lock in now? And then even if interest rates stay the same or go a little higher, I've now at least banked that equity for 5 to 7 to 10 years, right? Yeah. That's how I feel now about it. But I have the question of, okay, I'm going to get into an arm now, but I believe home prices are going to go down next year, which is the article we're about to hit. How does that play? How does that doesn't register in my brain?
So I guess you could refi out of your arm anytime before the arm is up. There may be a penalty for that. Actually, I don't know. Talk to your lender.
I don't know how arm works. I've never.
Do we have Tim
using one?
Do we have a lender in? We don't have a lender in Clubhouse right now, but
Spaghetti might be watching.
But I think people are looking at like just the flow of rates, and it's probably going to take several years for the rate to come back down. So I think that's what they're betting on. Is that by the time the arm adjusts, they're going to go ahead and refi. Hopefully their home price won't go down as much. But I think buyers are thinking, well, I think the buyers who are buying with an arm probably don't think that home prices are going to go down.
Right. Okay.
They think the rates are going to go down. The buyers who have stepped back, the timid buyers that are not buying at all, I think those are the people that are betting on the home prices, actually, on the home values to drop next year.
And if they drop that 10%, 15%, whatever they're guessing or whatever they're betting on, then they're like, well, I don't care what the rate's at.
Right.
Because I got my, $500,000 house is now worth $450.
Right. So Dan, I'm going to go ahead and mute you so that we don't hear the casino anymore in the background.
Yeah.
Let's go to the next article. More home buyers think prices will go down in the next year than up. So home buyer sentiment fell in September for the 7th month in a row to levels not seen since 2011. With 3 in 4 consumers polled by Fannie Mae saying the high home prices and mortgage rates made it a bad time to buy. I'm actually going to share this article because there's a lot of good graphs in it. Let me share this. If you're listening to us on the Clubhouse and you want to see some of these graphs, just click that link up there. What was that? What are you laughing? Are you laughing?
Just while I muted myself and I was playing slots.
Oh, you were still doing it. Just for the visual listeners, he was still playing the slot machine that he's there beside.
That's what we call a deep cut. That was for the people that are only watching me and not watching you read that article. Yep, deep cut.
So good. Okay. I feel sorry for the people that are just joining us that have no idea what the ruse that we just led was.
What kind of show is this?
All right, so here's a home purchase sentiment index. It is down to 60.8 now. That's the lowest that it's been since May of 2011, it looks like.
Almost.
I'm going to keep going down here. Now, this is interesting. Respondents say that home prices will go up in the next 12 months, negative 3%. So they do not think home prices will go up. If we keep going down in the article, respondents who say it's a bad or a good time to buy is down negative 56%. So respondents that say it's a bad time to buy is to 75%. Then we keep going. Respondents say it is a blank time to sell. A good time to sell is 59%. A bad time to sell is 33%. And the net good time, we're all having a net good time out here, is 26%. And then respondents who say mortgage rates will blank in the next 12 months, most people believe it will go down. Respondents who say mortgage rates will I read that wrong. I'm sorry. Respondents who say mortgage rates will go up is at 64%. So the net go down. More people think it's going to go down. No. A negative number of people think it's go down. So that means 55% do not think it's going to go down.
There you go.
Yeah, okay.
It's a weird graph. It says negative.
It was hard to say that correctly.
Right.
Because we're talking about going down and it's a negative. So 55% of people do not think it's going to go down.
Which I'm going to be honest with you guys. I want to see home values come down. I want them to stabilize and stop going up. I really want that. It'll help buyers, and especially the timid ones we're mentioning. It'll help them, lock in and get the American dream, whatever you want to call it. I do. I just don't see how that can happen. I mean, that much where it's going to be significant enough to where everyone thinks normal should be, right? Like if a house that's worth 500 grand now, what do they think normal should be? Back down to 375? Right. Like, I don't see that happening. It would have to take something more major than the entire economy and the housing market and the stock market crashing like happened 15 years ago. It's a correction, maybe 10, 12%, but I struggle. I really, really, really want to help these buyers and go, look, you should totally wait because it's going to come down 10%. I just don't see how the numbers would add up to that. I don't see it happen.
Well, especially if they're worried about losing their job. 21% of people are worried about losing their job. 78% are not concerned. That's good. Let's see. Household income, economy is on the right track or wrong track. Wrong track is 70%. That is not a good number. I would agree with that, by the way. 2019, 51% of people said we were on the right track, to let you know where that's tracking. 22% of people now think we're on the right track.
Oof.
Where's the home price? Oh, that was the first one we covered, wasn't it? Home price sentiment index.
Yeah.
Respondents who say home prices will fall in the next 12 months.
I think Dusty has the answer. It's if dinosaurs or aliens show up again, then that's going to cause.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Where are my zombies at?
And then technically we get, well, he'll show up now. Technically we get to say we predicted it because we did that one thumbnail with Jurassic World Dominion. So.
Have we done that? Yeah, we did that one. Okay.
Yeah. We're predicting dinosaurs.
I couldn't remember if we just played that one or if we're
predicting dinosaurs is what we're trying to do.
All right, I'm looking through the comments now, just making sure we kind of addressed everything.
I haven't looked at Clubhouse.
Sorry, dead air. I'm checking my internet connection. It's still, we're hanging on.
Oh, interesting. Here we go. Man, there's lots of. You want to hit those? Yeah,
hit the Clubhouse comments.
Let's
rock out the ones that are relevant to what we were just talking about.
Yeah. So Julian Mazina says prices will adjust. David says interest rates for 50 years up to the last 10 years were 7.7%. So there you go. Some people will. Andy say, I think is it Andy C or Andy say?
C. Andy's here. What's up, buddy?
Some people buy with a 7-year ARM because they only want to live there for 5 to 9 years. See, that's a good point as well.
Yeah, that's true. They're just going to sell.
David Van Steenkiste. I'm totally butchering that. By the way, Justin just showed up in Clubhouse. You mentioned zombies.
Are you serious? That's amazing.
David Van Steen. I'm just say David Van Steen and not butcher the rest for you. Home prices are going to are going way down based on affordability. You will not be able to refi. There we go. Shane LTM, or did we talk about 2-1 buy downs? Let's see. Olivier says 18 months is an optimistic scenario, more like at least 24. But then again, so much stuff can happen between now and then.
Yeah, that's true. A whole election.
Now, and Julian Mazina says exactly what I said. What is actually normal? There hasn't been normal in forever. And then Justin says, I'm nothing if not consistent.
Just I have no idea if you were like watching on another platform or whatever, but we just talked about zombies and said you would show up because we mentioned zombies, and you're literally showing up.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about the builders' response to all of this, right? What are builders going to do?
Ooh.
So this article comes to us from Dallas Morning News, and I think it's just a kind of a segment.
Local.
This is more about the Dallas market, but I think it is an indicator of what may be happening around the nation. DFW builders slash starts as home mortgage rates chase off buyers. Let me make this a little larger. With mortgage rates sending more home buyers to the sidelines, builders scaled back construction in the most recent quarter. The number of Dallas-Fort Worth single-family starts fell by more than 1/3 from the third quarter to 2021, according to a new report on Dallas-based analyst Residential Strategies. A quote, with mortgage rates now topping 6%, now 7%, housing affordability has become increasingly challenging, Residential Strategies principal Ted Wilson said in a report. Monthly payments on houses are now 50% higher than they were in January of this year. Let me read that again.
Oof.
Monthly payments on houses are now 50% higher than they were of January this year.
Where are they getting that?
I mean,
where are they getting that number?
You're yawning? Or is our show boring you, Dan?
I slept 2 hours last night.
I mean, they're just basically calculating the mortgage rates at a $300,000 loan versus now a mortgage rate at the same median.
So that's a $450,000 loan?
Payments on a $300,000 loan have spiked more than $700 a month.
Okay, that's not 50% though.
50% higher.
Okay.
So I guess
right.
I guess it was previously 1,400.
So if it was 14, now it's 21.
Correct.
Okay, so
I just hit the wrong button and deleted the whole article. The sudden slowdown in DM. I got it back. Thank you very much for Command Z. The sudden.
Yes. Whoever invented that, thank you.
Yes, thank you. The unfortunate reality for many first-time buyers that for-sale housing is now out of reach for their budget. Residential Strategies Vice President Cassie Gibson said. Furthermore, many would-be move-up buyers are now concerned about the economy and are likely house-locked, unwilling to walk away from their favorable ultra-low mortgage rate to purchase a new home with a 7% rate. And we talked about that was going to happen like a couple of months ago. That was one of the things that we mentioned is a potential of our current environment.
You remember the silver wave I've been talking about for 2 years, though?
Yeah. Are we seeing it? Is it going to happen?
It's going to happen. I've been predicting. So the silver wave is when all the boomers have to sell. You know, they're holding on. No, I'm going to, but you're going to start seeing them loosen up. And I keep saying it's going to be soon, but I don't know what soon means, a year or two from now. But I sent this article. So I was just looking around and I found this article. And it is usually what we like to do national news stories. But this one is really interesting to me because someone else that works a lot more new construction than I can maybe answer this better than me. But my question is, and Dusty kind of makes the point there for me, is shouldn't builders be going fast forward right now because they're 6 to 9 months behind, right?
Well, yes.
And why don't they just start hammering that lower third of the market, the affordable? And yes, maybe they're going to make less per house. But remember, they stopped for a couple months when the Rona hit, and they were already behind before the Rona hit. Then that pushed them farther behind, and now they're saying they're backing off on starts. That seems like the worst idea in history, in my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong, but tell me if I'm wrong. Exactly.
So no, I think what's happening is that the builders are looking at properties that have been on the market that they have just finished and they're sitting, and they haven't experienced that in a long time. Well, they have to adjust, right? So
but that's a very short-sighted viewpoint.
I was talking to a builder yesterday that had been in the market for over 15 years. And this is the first time that they've had a house longer than 5 months. So I think they made some adjustments, several of them, probably increased the numbers of homes that they build. And now those are starting to sit a little longer than they're used to. So it's going to take a little while to stomach it. The one benefit about the builders pulling back is that now the demand for materials is lower. And we know from one thing about college, supply and demand, lumber prices should be going down, and they are. On Inman, lumber prices see stable week after falling to normal levels.
Okay, what is normal, by the way?
So around 450 bucks. So if we look at
Are
the
they really back down
pre-pandy
to
level,
that?
yeah.
That's pre-pandy levels.
Yeah, if we look at the pre-pandy levels, it was right around that $400 to $500 range.
Remember, they
It was
spiked
dipping lower on occasion.
They spiked 400%. They were at 1,600 per board. I remember when we talk
Correct.
about this, it's per board foot. If you want to do that math, it was 1,600 per
A year
board foot,
ago.
1,700 per board foot, and then it went down to like 11, and then went back up to 12, and then now down to 450. That's so again. People want to work right now. They're worried about losing their jobs. Maybe they go into a different sector where it's going to be a little more stable. And all of a sudden, we talk about supply and demand, materials and labor. They're now available, and the materials are now pre-pandy levels. Why would you take your foot off the gas pedal right now?
Yeah, here are the lumber futures for those watching. We're looking right now, and it's at 475 or so. Let me zoom in.
That's awesome.
475
That's really
is
cool.
what it is literally today.
Yeah.
And then the 6 month graph shows it at the high of 559. But if we look back a year, we can go to the 1329. If we go 5 years, we should see an additional spike 2 years ago. And there it is.
Yeah.
I can only hit the spike at 14, but it was higher than
16, almost 17. Yeah.
So yeah, we could see that it's way down, and you can also see through 2018, 2019, 20 that it was hovering even less. I mean, it was hovering around, what is that, 427 to 321. It was kind of hovering in that range. So right now it's at 475. So I would call this as close to normal as we've had in a long, long time.
Yeah.
Well, I totally thought I was sharing that graph with you guys,
No,
but I did
just
not.
you and me.
It was just us talking. My bad.
Yeah.
Hey Ray, it's Brock out of Tampa. Can I speak to the new construction piece?
Yeah, please.
Yes, please.
So I have represented builders, and it makes me think back to 08, right? So recently I noticed the two largest, so I'm in two markets. I'm in Nebraska and Florida. And I noticed in my Nebraska market, the two largest builders that are doing, and again, some of you guys in larger markets are going to laugh at it, but a builder that does 300 to 400 homes and Nebraska is a pretty big builder, and they are offering up $10,000 builder incentives, whether you want to use that for the buy downs or paid closing costs or whatever. So I think that's a huge indicator. And we say, well, why take the foot off the gas? If you guys were in the market back in 08, builders had their hands tied with lenders because they see, the construction loans that are pulled out for 6 months and they're taking longer. And then the lenders are noticing, well, geez, look at this guy. He's got 10 specs out right now. And, basically they're not selling. So they're going to come back and say, hey, we need an extension on our construction loan because things aren't selling. But this is just the start, because I don't think a lot of the builders pay attention to the interest rate portion of it. I mean, yes, when they're doing the construction loan, but I mean, this snuck up on everybody. Even if you expected, no one thought it would move this fast. I mean, we knew it would go back to a certain point, 6, 7, whatnot, but not within 12 months. So yeah. I think we are just starting on the cusp of that, but where the lender's going to start pulling back, and they're going to have to start having the builder either do pre-sales or putting up a substantial amount LTV to get that construction loan from their lender.
One of the interesting things you said was it snuck up on people. I know there's cynical YouTube commenters who will drop it down there like, what do you mean snuck up? We saw this coming months away. A builder started his builds 8 to 12 months ago.
Right. Long time ago.
And if you recall, Dan, we had a prediction show in December where we predicted what the rate was going to be for this year at the end of the year. And none of us were over 4%, I don't think. So the fact that we, even economists then were saying it's not going to go up, and then bam. So yeah, he's right. No one saw this coming around the planning stages of when builders build. And so I think they are taking a step back and kind of looking at things a little differently now.
Ray,
Yes.
something interesting.
Oh,
this
is Shane. You got to tell everybody who you are so they know.
Ray.
Oh, hey everybody, this is Shane on Clubhouse, Shane LTM. So a lot of times we keep talking lately in the last 2 or 3 weeks on Clubhouse about no growth, slow growth, or strong growth markets. When you look at the strong growth markets, that's a situation where builder inventory is a bigger issue, right? There's a lot more builder factor in that. But here's the other thing about strong growth markets is there's been stronger institutional appetite in those markets. But we know from a lot of our friends on Clubhouse that institutions have pulled back dramatically, but they're not out. They're just waiting. They're waiting for prices to drop. So think about that in tandem. If all of a sudden institutions start going after builder inventory in those stronger growth markets, how that impacts those places. Because when you were talking about 10 or 12% earlier, I'll just say this, and probably about 25 to 30 of the 100 MSAs that I'm lightly tracking, it really looks like it's going to be 12 to 20% correction. In some places, about at least 10, it already is that. But in other places, it's only going to be about 4 to 12% right now. We'll see what that looks like in 6 months. So it's been interesting. But I just wanted to point out in the builder situation, there could be a nice little marriage that's not helpful for Main Street, but it's definitely advantageous for them if builders just decide to find a way to sell to institutions and kind of hedge and leverage their losses.
That's actually a big part of what they're doing. There was another article. We may have talked about it. Did we talk about this article last week? Let me see if I have it on the list here. But builders are slashing their starts and prices and selling to big investor groups. I think we talked about that last week. So that is exactly what's happening in some areas, not all builders, but some areas. Dusty made the comment on the Facebook chat when they're overpriced and they haven't dropped the price yet, and they start to offer incentives and things like that. Well, that is true. One of the reasons why they're trying to maintain the integrity of their price is for the other buyers in the neighborhood. If you just bought a home in that neighborhood last year and you paid a premium price, it would do nothing more than piss you off to see a builder now lowering the price per foot. So they're trying to put other stuff in it, give someone the fridge and the fence and the custom paint jobs, and they would rather do that. They would rather do anything possible than lowering the price, because that starts to have a negative impact on the people that have already purchased. However, with what Shane says, we are seeing an institutional pullback. One of the most popular things was the build to rent. And I can't help but think that one of the reasons why we're starting to see a pullback on the rent, the build to rent in that type of market, could be because renters are starting to not pay their bill. As a matter of fact, we have an article about 10 states where renters are behind on their payments. What I thought was funny about this headline, this is on CNBC, is that in the headline, they mention, and high cost California didn't make the list. Okay. I mean, why was that necessary?
You always got to take
California.
You always got to take a jab at California, no matter what.
I'm surprised it doesn't say, and Gavin Newsom's high cost California didn't make the list.
Yeah.
And Silicon Valley is not on the list.
Right.
So yeah, that's what it would have been. It wouldn't have been an attack on Gavin. It would have been an attack on the tech industry. Right. And tech industry, Silicon Valley in California, it's not on the list. So 15% of American households, around 6 million people, are behind on rent. Wow. That's interesting. And you know who led the charge? South Dakota.
Really?
Yeah. 26% are behind on rent in South Dakota.
I have close friends that are from South Dakota. That's and one of them is he's essentially a surveyor, a builder. He does entitlements. I've always wanted to get him on the show for this kind of stuff, but that's interesting because they seem like a pretty just kind of similar to your market. They just kind of float along. You know, they go about their day.
It's an interesting stat. What it probably means is that the investors in that market have increased rent rates faster than the market could absorb them. So they're starting to find the ceiling for those rent increases. And I think you will probably see them level off those increases or even go down a little bit on the rents.
Yeah. Well, if you think about it, so if you have just a kind of normalized chill market, someone signs a year lease Or maybe they signed a 2 to 5 year lease and then no, cool, that's what they pay. But right now, what landlords are doing, they're trying to turn people over because they can keep jacking up the rent every term, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
And
they're fine with that. That's what
they're
they've been doing.
Absolutely at the ceiling, right? They've been doing that for a long time, for a couple of years. They're absolutely at the ceiling right now. Here, part of the mass exodus is is because of the landlords.
Every now and then I'll find one of those old codgers that's like got a property. I'm like, what's the rent rate on that? And he's like, well, I've been renting it for 15 years at $400 a month.
Yeah.
100%, 100, no vacancy. I'm like, bro, you could have rented that for $1,500 a month.
Right.
So every now and then you pass by one of those, but more and more of
Old
those guys
codger.
are selling out. You know, old codger is a technical term for real estate.
Yeah.
But more and more of those guys are kind of backing out of the market, taking advantage of the huge prices, selling it. And you have other investors that are buying it, increasing those rents. And so
institutional investors,
this also might be a transition phase. This might be evidence of the quote unquote institutional investors buying, raising the rent. The people can't pay the rent, and then they're going to kick them out and find someone who can. That's an interesting question. Here's some other states on this list. And this is, again, the whole state. This is not just a city there. It is South Dakota, Alabama, New Jersey, South Carolina, Connecticut, Delaware, Arkansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, New York.
Wait, Arkansas?
Yeah. We've made a list for once.
I know you never make lists for anything.
We're regularly appearing on the best places to live list. We are not usually appearing on the states with the highest price drop, states with the highest price increase. We are not usually, because we're so steady.
No, and mountain bike trail lists, Arkansas is on there for
Arkansas is on there.
Yeah, where you can go to buy an overpriced Jeep that's going to break down on you every 2 weeks, Arkansas. Just kidding. Sorry, buddy. I'm not wrong, though.
I do have it back. Oh man! All right, let me make sure I've got the comments on that. A lot of comments were on the rent stuff. Let's see. Check Clubhouse. Clubhouse has got a lot of comments in there today.
I know it's going off. I keep checking it, but I don't want to check it because I put my glasses on like an old man.
Barry said, "What kind of discount to full market value do you think the institutions are getting now?" I really don't know.
I don't.
One of the questions about that, Barry, is the discount they're getting the new market value that the populace would normally be getting, but they are. You've seen those things that like, hey, this is on sale, and you look at it, and the sale price is the highest price that you've ever seen, but it's on sale now, discounted like 30%.
Right.
They raised. I wonder if that's kind of what's happened, right? So the prices have been raised over the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And now it's, hey, we're going to sell this whole package to you at 20% off the list. But that's about what it would go on the market.
Right. But then the builders, the sellers can get rid of their construction loans and move on, and then move on to the next project. And they
also have new numbers with lower materials prices and lower labor costs.
So they
costs are stabilizing.
They kind of scrap that, make whatever they made, and start over on a new project. All right. I mean,
or they get to just close fast, right? They're not making much money at all or any of it, but it takes away the liability, and now they can do new numbers for their next builds. And
depending on what phase of the build they're in, if they're in the later phases, and if they sold a lot, during the hotter times in the last 2 years, they probably made a pretty fair share of their money back already.
Yeah.
Just saying.
All right, let's talk about court. NAR and Rex. I said in the opener that they're in the parking lot. I said in the opener that they're in the parking lot fighting, and the bouncers helping out Rex.
And the bouncers absolutely helping out Rex right now, which they've been helping NAR for a while. But when you're hanging out and it's a nice evening, it's like 6:30, you're kind of winding down, you're sipping on some whiskey, something like that. You're chilling out on your back porch, right? And everything's cool. And it's just a perfect evening. And that one fly, there's not a bunch of them, but that one fly, it just jams in your ear, and then it goes away, and you're like, okay, well, cool, whatever. And then, and it goes in your other ear. That's Rex. They will not go away. They just keep somehow staying right there, just holding on a little longer.
Boom. Roasted.
Okay.
Yeah. That was a good one, by the way. I'm gonna take credit for that
So
one.
the fly that is Rex. Their attorneys have requested that the court order NAR add 7 additional data custodians to provide information relevant to the case, arguing that each of these executives was responsible for NAR's response to the online competition for developing and enforcing NAR policies, quote, limiting both how homes are listed online and the negotiation of commissions.
Saying
So the
we
complaint
essentially
here is
steered people, right?
right. They're saying that these people made Zillow list Rex on a different tab
Yeah.
than the other market homes. And because of that, Rex was adversely impacted. And these people, Bob Goldberg, who's NAR's CEO, Catherine Katie Johnson, NAR's general counsel, Kevin Milligan, NAR's former vice president, and Clifford Nersbach, NAR's former associate general counsel.
Now,
So these are the people, the data custodians, that were responsible for the decision-making process. And do you have attorney-client privilege if your attorney works for the company? Is that a thing?
I think so. Yeah.
Wouldn't some of this fall under attorney-client privilege?
Yeah, but also
NAR's counsel and chief member of experience officer, maybe. Is
No
NAR's
one-
counsel, is that general counsel? Does that mean legal? Is that an attorney?
yeah.
An associate general counsel? I don't know. That's interesting. Somebody who knows. Hello.
But
I don't know the answer to that.
the only one that made Zillow put Rex in a different tab was Zillow when they became
No,
a
it was-
brokerage.
It was NAR's. Well, you could blame Zillow for becoming a brokerage.
That's to me what
You
happened.
could say Zillow, you didn't have to become a brokerage. Why did you become a broker?
Right.
But that is interesting. Rex sued NAR and Zillow in March 2021. Violations of the NAR rule, no commingling rule, prompted Zillow to be on a non-separate MLS, which we just talked about.
I mean,
So it's all speculation regarding Goldberg specifically. Attorney for Rex noted that Zillow had admitted in responses to written questions from REX that Goldberg was involved with Zillow's decision to join NAR. Okay, that answers that question. Therefore, the attorney said he likely had information relating to Zillow's decision to join NAR's assessment strategies and activities directed to protecting its membership from competing technology-based platform, offer discounted, direct, and more transparent real estate brokerage services.
because this was all make it more transparent for the consumer. But Rex is saying, no, you hurt our business. Okay,
Yeah.
well, they're not very transparent if they're only putting, advertising things on their own website, and they're not getting out to as many people as possible. They only put it on their website, and then they bank on it going to Zillow to really get the good traction because they don't have much traction.
Yeah.
Interesting. How have we always said it though, Ray? We've always said they're the parasite that built.
They built their business
back
on
of the
someone
whale.
else's platform. Yeah.
Right.
And then that platform changed and their business went down, and now they're looking for somebody to blame.
Right. Like, remember when eBay was first a thing, and there were literally businesses that would sell it on eBay for you. So if you didn't want to go through the hassle and create an account and password and all that stuff, because it was scary for you back in 2005 and 6 and 7,
eBay
you
broker.
could go to them and sell it, or they could buy things for you from eBay. That was their business. But then it became so simple with Amazon. I'm assuming those guys went away.
Yeah. So this is a little bit confusing because the headline says court thwarts NAR, orders execs to turn over evidence.
But
But
what
it
do
also
they
says,
like,
well, so NAR and anyone, I guess, in a legal battle is like they don't want a bunch of information coming out. But this is what it says. Plaintiff alleges in conclusatory fashion that there is substantial factual and legal overlap between those actions, the Moore and Stitzer Burnett, and the present matter, which is Zillow Rex. But Rex's request is overly broad, and the court is not persuaded that all documents produced by NAR and those actions are relevant to this case. So it says that the court thwarts NAR, but I don't understand. It says that the Rex's request is overly broad. Is Zilly the judge? And let me make sure I have my right players. Oh, it only agreed to the 4 executives as custodians. So it only agreed to Bob Goldberg, Catherine Katie Johnson, Kevin Milligan, and Clifford Nesbitt.
Instead of the
There were a whole
full
there
7.
was a whole bunch of other people apparently listed. That's what it was. Okay, so the court thwarts NAR because they actually said, okay, these 4 people, you can have their documents, but no one else's.
No, okay.
Interesting.
So, well, whatever. This is all just, this has been going on for 3 years.
Well, and that's why we're covering it, because we always talk about it whenever they have a new thing coming out or a new article, a new something that's happening, because as realtors, this does kind of affect us. And occasionally we cover these, there's all kinds of technologies and new things that pop up and go down and pop up and go down. And we could be seeing another one of those with Pacaso.
Now,
Pacaso slashes 30% from their workforce, citing rising rates and home prices.
Before you get into it, what is Pacaso, Ray? We've covered them once or twice on the show, and one of them was people living in residential areas were angry that Pacaso was coming to their area, right? Wasn't it that story?
Right.
Yeah.
It's not a timeshare.
No.
It's a co-ownership.
Right. Of up to 10 people, you can have 10%, right? Couldn't you? Something like that. I don't remember what that was.
I don't remember the exact breakdown, but it's not a timeshare. They want you to know that it's not a timeshare.
Not a timeshare.
It's co-ownership.
Right.
Which they should just call it. It's co-ownership.
Right. Get rid of that extra syllable.
The reason why it's famous, Spencer Raskoff, Zillow's founder creator, is behind it.
Yeah.
And Austin Allison also. They announced Tuesday it's reducing staff by 30%. Pacaso employees impacted by the cuts will provide severance, healthcare, career help. Director of Operations told Inman on September 21 rate hike combined with the cost of housing led to the decision. Will put us back to January 2022 headcount, just above 200 employees. They had 300 staff, so they grew quite a bit this year, and then they're basically cutting them.
Yeah. Which
it showed a decline in rate locks and over a quarter, 28% of the luxury homes secured.
Because they help multiple buyers buy one property, essentially, right?
Correct.
Isn't that the nutshell version?
Yeah. So it's interesting. So I'm sure they're going to be fine. 200 employees is a lot. That's still hopefully they can get efficient enough to survive.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's been several neighborhoods and stuff like that have passed ordinances.
Okay.
What is it? It's not an ordinance.
Or I think it's a city ordinance. Yeah. Remember when Airbnb and
regulation
VRBO, yeah. When they first came around, people were like, whoa, wait, this is essentially a transient, less than 30 days home. You can't do that. We don't want that. So like cities in LA, like not LA didn't necessarily ban it, but like Santa Monica said no. City of LA said no. But then this was kind of a workaround because it's not an Airbnb, it's not a rental. All these people own it, but then they all stay there at random times. And I just remember like signs, they got their pitchforks out, signs in the, say Pacaso, go home. Well, we're trying to go home. We own that house right now. We're trying to go into our house now, please.
Matt LaMarche met with the Pacaso guy last month, and he said it's not enough upside in his opinion. He thinks it's smart, but a lot of municipalities are worried about collecting from them. You mean collecting like taxes? Interesting.
Yeah. So when I met with this guy last week, he's like there.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. Say it again.
Oh, okay. I was just going to say, when I met with him last month, and I think the second home markets really see a lot more of this as an upside than, say, LA or a normal, quote unquote, normal market. But the way he explained it to me is that, let's say the three of us decided to go in on $1 million home, it's basically they're putting it into an LLC. It's not strictly 3 owners. So I think, and he even mentioned to me that in Hilton Head, where I'm also licensed, the city of Hilton Head has been fighting them because they're worried about the taxes not being collected, property taxes, which property taxes there are pretty expensive. So if
that's a weird concern, isn't it?
I'm sorry?
That's a weird concern, isn't it?
I agree, and he brought it up. I didn't, which I thought.
Yeah, that's really
also
interesting.
Well, wait, is it though? Because you're pulling from
Yeah.
multiple owners to get Texas, and
Well,
that's difficult.
But usually the LLCs, I mean, they're usually more on top of it because someone else is managing the LLC. They're usually just
Yeah.
paying.
Yeah.
And everything.
Interesting. Huh.
Yeah, and I wonder
Those
how
things-
mortgage payments go. Do they all pay through the LLC? Because then it would be simpler, right?
No clue.
Yeah, no idea.
Speaking of no clue, y'all remember back when Compass and Anywhere had a fight before they were called Anywhere? It's over.
Again,
It's
man, another reason Real OG changed their name. It was hard to say, and they had a ton of lawsuits against them. So they're like, we're Anywhere
Wait,
now.
this is the one they were suing though, right? Right? Who was suing who?
Oh, I don't know. Anywhere comes to the
Real estate brokerage Compass and Anywhere, a real estate holding
this
company
was, you're
formerly
right.
known as Realogy,
Yeah.
have settled a bitter legal battle
This
dating
is
back
when
to 2019. We
Compass
covered this
started
on the
building,
show.
and was this when they were going to brokers and saying, we want to buy you? Let me see all your paperwork and all your books. JK, JK, LOL. We're going to back out, but we know exactly how much that agent makes. So we're going to offer you this much and a signing bonus.
And so somebody messaged me and said, couldn't you? They were not a Compass agent. They were just curious. They said, couldn't you just look at the MLS and calculate how much they were making? You could calculate the GCI, but you don't know the sweetheart deal that agent was given in order to stay at that company. Some companies, this may shock you, will charge agents different commission, right?
Weird.
Not the one I'm at, but there are some companies that do that. So
what company are you with again? Just kidding.
So some companies have sweetheart deals for people. So
smart.
Yeah, I think it's real smart. So so Compass then would look at this and look at the sweetheart deal and then be able to negotiate with that agent, basically tell them, hey, here's what you can make if you're with us. And they would give them just enough to cause them to move. So anyway, this deal is now settled. They
put to bed.
Yeah. The suit alleged that Compass co-founder Robert Refkin, quote, personally solicited Realogy to enter into a legal price fixing agreement where the two companies would agree to limit the compensation, right? To compete out on brand, but price. To compete on brand, but not price. Realogy resorted to lying and cheating, stealing to stop Compass's growth. False information. That's what Compass filed against them.
So it's kind of went back and forth. Real OG started it, but then Compass said, oh, yeah, well, you.
Yeah. Unfair business practices against Compass from Realogy. So all that's been settled. Do we know the amount? Or just we know that's been settled? No, I don't see an amount on there. So
I'm just happy it's over. I don't care, actually.
Yeah, we don't have to talk about it again.
But can I ask you a question, Ray?
Until the next one. We don't have to talk about it again until the next one.
Right.
But you can go to Inman. They actually have the whole filing documents there. So,
and you know what I'm concerned about, Ray? And be ready for a transition.
What are you concerned about, Dan?
I'm just concerned that it's an end of an era for Zillow.
More like end of an error.
Smooth.
How accurate is your Zestimate?
Not.
Here's one Zestimate you can't argue with. It's time for the father of the Zestimate to retire.
I didn't know there was
Stan
one
Humphreys.
guy.
Yeah. He's out. It was 2005. Humphreys. This whole article goes into the thing, but basically, we just want to let you guys know Stan Humphreys is announced his retirement from Zillow.
Well, first of all, I didn't know there was a guy that just is like, you know what? We're going to come up with an estimate feature that's run by AI on our site, but it's going to be really wrong. So we're going to call it a Zestimate. Zesty. So we don't want it to be called.
We don't want it to be called an estimate. We don't want it to be called a home value because we can't be held to this.
We can't do that.
Yeah. So Stan Humphreys was the guy that was interviewed. Y'all remember when there was a big hubbub about Zillow offers and Zillow buying houses, right?
Yeah.
And this guy was interviewed on a weekend CNBC, CNN type money show. And we had this live on our show. Well, not live, but we played this for you, where the news anchor asked this guy, well, hey, it doesn't look like Zillow offers has been profitable. What is your why? What is the play? What are y'all doing? And they're like, well, we're not really concerned about profitability right now. We're more concerned about adding the service. That answer was given by none other than Stan Humphries, the creator of the Zestimate. So I'm wondering if this is a, hey, buddy, we like what you built kind of, but you really cost us a whole lot of money through the Zillow offers thing. So we are going to ask you to go ahead and retire. I wonder if it's that kind of scenario.
They're pushing him out with probably
Yeah.
a nice incentive plan, by the way. Sorry.
We're not going to
severance.
fire you because that would be bad optics, but apparently your math doesn't work because
Yeah, and we're not going to let you go. We just don't want you to come in tomorrow. If that's okay.
You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here, Stan.
Don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you. I mean, but okay, so isn't he kind of the scapegoat here? They're just like, well, that's
they're not really
saying
saying
this whole thing. I'm just saying, like,
they're actually sending him away with a lot of fanfare. And now what they're saying is, so this is interesting. It's all through this article. They call back of the napkin math, back of the napkin math, back of the napkin math. Sam Humphries was set about on improving back of the napkin math. We can help you do better. Back of the napkin math, Humphries said in the interview of Zillow's initial goals. So they're all like, they're walking way back the purpose of the Zestimate. They're saying, we just wanted to help people get a better idea, basically, back of the napkin math. I mean, they're really walking it back.
I mean, they're going back 10 years because remember, this was sell your home today for this. Come on Zillow, jump on our website, see how much your home is worth, and we'll give you an offer at this value. But now they're saying, no, it was never like that. No.
Just helpful data point, but not an appraisal. Yeah.
That's called walking back, rolling back a little bit.
They have the agents react section of this too, where they asked agents what they thought, and the agents give a variety of responses. But I cannot help but think that because this guy cost them like $1 billion or something crazy, I don't really know them. That's not a quote. It's just, allegedly. Right. Anytime you don't know, you just say allegedly.
Yeah, you can say whatever you want, or you can just say, "I'm just saying" after it, and then you're good.
I'm just saying. Yeah. But I can't help but think because this guy cost them so much money, they're like, "Hey, we're gonna let you go, but we're gonna let you go kindly."
But again,
somebody wait, who did it? Somebody put a mean face on Facebook. Somebody's mad about something we shared.
They're mad about Stan. It's Matt. So Matt, no, that was not planned. And then Stan, not so good with numbers. Yeah, and he's never trusted a Stan. So
what was planned? Our transition was not planned. That was off the cuffs.
But I want to go back to, again, I'll play devil's advocate for the fall guy, right? Okay. This dude, I mean, I don't know how it came up. He wasn't just like programming one day and like, yeah, dude, what if we had an estimate feature? Blah, blah, blah. They were like, here's the guy. But what if, or even if he did, he said, hey guys, hey execs, I have this great idea for something. We can call it a Zestimate. It'll go with Zillow's estimate. We can get more traffic to our website. It'll really differentiate our website, our real estate website apart. It'll separate from everyone else. And they're like, dude, that's a great idea. Now they're like, so that thing that you did solely on your own that no one else approved, that's cost us a lot of money. We're going to have to walk it back a little bit, my dude.
Yeah. About that. That's good.
Thanks.
I just checked. I had to check. Sorry if you heard that audio come through. I had to check on Facebook. It was Edward Caro who dropped the mean face. Tell us why, Edward. You can't just drop a mean face and not tell us.
And if it was recent, it's got to be about Zillow. Maybe he's upset they're going away because he loves.
Maybe he loves it.
Yeah.
All right. So for the record, Edward Carroll, because he's not dropping a comment, we're just going to have to assume that he loves the Zillow's estimate. He hates that Stan is leaving.
That's where we're going with here.
I mean, if people don't drop a comment, we're just going to make up stuff until we besmirch their name and they're like, oh, I gotta comment so I can make it clean, make my name right. All right. I did just want to drop this because we do have some institutional investor folks that like to listen to the show. Apartment demand fell. Huh. That was unexpected. And I know it was unexpected because the headline says apartment demand unexpectedly fell during the busiest season, according to a new report. This article is from CNBC. The third quarter of every year is historically the busiest for apartment rentals, but demand fell this year, according to RealPage. It's the first time the rental technology platform has recorded a third quarter drop in 30 years. This came after a record number of new renters filled apartment during the first 2 years of the COVID. Shouldn't have said it. Of the pandemic.
Yeah. We're gonna go down from 100 viewers down to 98 now. It's fine. It's okay.
So soft leasing numbers coupled with weak home sales price to low consumer confidence.
There you go. He commented.
Did he?
He said it was a typo.
Edward Cairo says it's a typo. No, we know your love for Zillow's Zestimate. Don't play. Don't play. A pandy is over California. Who's this Facebook user? Thanks for joining us. Poor Edward. They're on your side, Ed.
Okay, yeah, there we go.
All right.
Isn't Edward in Arizona though? I thought he was in Arizona. So.
If jobs and wages continue to hold up, they have inflation. Let me reread this sentence. Sorry. If jobs and wages continue to hold up as they have, and inflation cools to some degree, we should see pent-up rental demand unlocked ahead of the spring of 2023 leasing season. So they expect that it's just a short-term setback.
Well, and rental prices have to come down,
yeah.
Which we already covered. They're way too high, and they were testing the waters, the sellers or the landlords, and now they're like, okay, all right, my bad.
Peak rent growth is clearly in the rearview mirror, said Carl Whitaker, Senior Director of Research and Analysis at RealPage. That's true coast to coast, and with the apartment supply set to start increasing, it's unlikely we'll see rents re-accelerate even as demand returns. So we're seeing some changes in single family rents. We're seeing some places where renters are behind, and we're also seeing some instances in which apartment rentals are now lower. So I think I talked about this on Clubhouse like 4 weeks ago. I said there's got to be an equilibrium as more and more institutional investors invest because they're trying to find the renters. Then there's going to be an eventual pullback where the renters are like, okay, we're kind of at the limit here. We're going to stay where we are, just like home sellers and home buyers would. And when that happens, you'll start to see some difference in investing. So now I'm curious, are institutional investors going to continue to buy at the same rate in which they're buying, knowing what we know now about a slight pullback in the renters? Are they going to be satisfied with the ceiling and continue to buy until home prices slowly continue to accelerate? Or are they going to pull back their purchases? So that is yet to be seen.
Because you have that one side of things, like you just said, institutional investors are buying from builders who can't sell right now. So they're like, oh, cool. Now we'll just rent them out. But then now there's less renters in the market. And they're like, oh, so what's that going to do for those sellers?
That's right.
Or for those builders, not the sellers. Matt, to answer your question, for me personally, in your areas, Matt asks, this is Matt LaMarche. I call him Lat Malarshmallow is what I call him. His name is totally all jacked up now, but he asks the question, in your areas, did rents outpace home values? Yes, for me, yes.
Yes,
and not in all, I can't say all areas, but yes, for the most part, because people that couldn't buy, they had to go rent. They had to go live somewhere, and landlords took advantage of that.
Well, Dan, before we go, why don't you play that slot one more time?
Yep. Okay, hold on.
Hey,
again,
there you go. It's pretty good. Pretty good.
That's like so when I was muting, I was playing while you were reading through articles. I lost kind of big, but I just won it all back again. So this is
there you go.
Day. This is a really
so we'll see. We'll see where everybody has to place their bets.
It's so random. What kind of show is this?
Speaking of, thanks everybody for joining us this week. Dan, before we leave, tell everybody where they can find you, man.
Right there, DLUDWIGROCKS, DLUDWIGROCKS. I just posted a new reel. It's Good Times. Had a reel a couple of days ago. It's doing okay. And I want to add, hey, check on your friends. Just if you think they don't need anything, if they seem tough and they seem strong, go check on them. Just say hi.
That's right.
How you doing? Everything cool right now? Because things are jacked up, whether you know it or not. So I appreciate that. I love you guys so much. Make sure you're reaching out to your friends. Ray, where can they find you?
Follow me at Razorback. That's RAYZORBACK. Where good Razorbacks are sold. And please do check my Instagram out today. In about 2 minutes, I'm going to post something on the Instagram stories. We are raising money for cancer, American Cancer Society. So I'd love for you guys to give there. And we have a special, it unlocks a special code where you can get a pink beard admitted real estate shirt just like this. So be sure you give there. If you've already donated and you don't have a link to order or anything like that, let me know. And I'll be sure that you get it. So, but thanks everybody for joining us. And we will see you guys. Oh, actually, no show next week. I'll be at the One Real Conference. So no show next week. The next show will be in 2 weeks. So thank you guys. Bye, everybody.
Love you guys. Bye.